Welcome back, everybody. Last time I played a pretty standard character, as I mentioned during those videos. And I also mentioned throughout the course of the last part there that I was going to try a more complicated character build this time around, which is heavily focused on protection. You may ask how you can focus on that when your equipment selection is essentially random, like you're running around the dungeon just finding stuff. Sil has a skill tree for smithing and forging. And what that allows you to do is sort of force your playstyle on the game, at least in the early stages. And then in the later stages of the game, it allows you to really create some really powerful equipment that you just wouldn't be able to find. Even the in-game artifacts, some of them are really strong, but a lot of them come with trade-offs, really strong trade-offs. You might have a helmet that lets you see monsters kind of around your vicinity, but it also draws more dangerous monsters to your level. So they all have kind of a negative repercussion, and it allows you to make really strong weapons and armor that have essentially no negative repercussions and make you a powerhouse. So you can take smithing at the beginning of the game to increase your survivability, or at the end of the game just to make you incredibly strong. This time we're going to take it early in the game because it helps kind of increase your chances at getting through the first few hundred floors. So the best smithing race family combination, in my opinion, is the Fëanorian Noldor elves here, because they get a smithing affinity and they have a grace bonus. There are some really good dwarven smithing bonuses you get here, like the Nogbarum House of Nogrod here has smithing mastery, which means you get 2 smithing skills for free, which is really, really helpful. But their stats are kind of blowsy, so it's hard to play Nogrim when you're a noob like me, so we're just going to go with the Fëanor because they get so much cool stuff. So let's pick these people. When you're doing any kind of smithing build, like you can do smithing with pretty much any kind of build. If you want a stealthy character, or you want a pure melee character, or you want one that has really high defense, it doesn't lock you into one kind of build type. But you do kind of want to choose your stats based on your build type. So we said cure protection, which means high protection just helps you not die, but later on in the dungeon you start meeting things that are going to kill you no matter how high your protection is, because they might breathe fire or cold at you and stuff like that. So you need to be able to kill them quickly too. So it's kind of a melee protection focused build. So we need to be able to fight, is basically what I'm getting at. So you could go like really high on the grace, because grace is what helps you with your smithing style skills. But it doesn't really do much else. Well, let's see. So I like to focus on will as well, because the will and evasion trees both have some protection bonuses in them. So I'm just going to pick some random stats and I'll explain why I did it later. Let's do this. Got one more here. I hate it when this happens. I have this one little point floating around, and because of the triangle math I can't use it. So let's go lower on Constitution, higher on Dex. That looks good. Maybe lower on Dex, higher on Constitution. Sorry, I should have thought of this before. Let's make our guy really fragile just to show how much protection can help. So 34 HP is good, but not great. Pick that. And with the early smithing build, I told you before that you always get a forge on 100 feet, which is the second floor of the dungeon. So by the time you get there, you want to have the smithing score you need to make the stuff you want. Every item has a certain smithing skill requirement to make it. And typically a ceiling, I think, of around 11 or 12 gets me what I need. Let's go 12. And then we need some melee. I need 500 points left over for charge. Actually, you know what? This is why I never like to do this on the screen, because I can't pick abilities here, and then sometimes I invest too much. So let's just make a character with no skills allocated. That's an old elf. I always feel bad making the elves this old. They're like 3,600 years old, and then they die on the 50th foot floor of the dungeon. It's really depressing. Selentar, that sounds epic. Cool. Good job, random name generator. Let's go pick up the curved sword, because I always forget. And now let's look at our skill allocation. So I know for sure I'm going to want charge. That's 500 experience right there. And I know in order to make stuff with smithing, you need to pick the type of equipment that you want to create as an ability. So if I want to create weapons, I need to get Weaponsmith. If I want to create armor, I need to get Armorsmith. In the early game, armor is really what you want. Like, you can kind of get away with whatever weapons you find, but armor is what will keep you alive. Jeweler is the second best, I'd say, because you can get some really strong skill boosts through rings that are cheap, but taking Armorsmith, Jeweler, and Enchantment is what we really want at this stage, because it lets us get really above average equipment, is a lot of experience. So we're going to get our first smithing skill for free, because we have smithing affinity. So I'm going to take Armor and Enchantment, which requires 500 experience, and then I'll want Charge, which is 1,000 experience. So I need 1,000 left over. So let's go pump smithing to 12, let's do 11. And then melee to, ooh, can I do that? Sure. And then whatever's left in evasion. Our evasion with the protection build does not need to be high. It's nice if it's high, but you gotta give up something. That's the thing with smithing, is you burn a lot of experience on it, and it doesn't actually do anything when you're walking around the dungeon. It does help you create equipment, obviously, that makes you stronger in the dungeon, but it is sort of an experience sink. So it's a trade-off between how much experience you put into smithing and what is your equipment actually getting for you. Because it's entirely possible you'll find awesome equipment on your way down anyways. So I think that's good. And it has to be good because I hit enter. So let's pick some abilities. We want Charge. And usually I take the smithing abilities here just so I don't forget that I need the experience for them. So I'll take Armorsmith, and I'll take Enchant. Okay, hopefully I didn't screw any of that up. Got my sword equipped. Now, the trick with this kind of character, because I sank a lot of experience into smithing, that last time when we played I sank into evasion. This part of the game is hard. Like, the first floor is hard. If wolves kind of surround me, I'll die. If anything surprising happens, I'll die. If a pack of orcs come up the stairs, I'll probably die. So you have to be really judicial about how you move around. The other thing, though, is you want to kind of maximize the experience you find on these couple of floors before the 100-foot forge. Because if you don't do that, you might not have enough experience to make what you want to make when you get to the forge. Because some equipment requires you to burn experience on it. So these wolves are trading places, which is really annoying. I don't usually do that. See, this is a case where if I was playing just a normal character, I might keep swinging, but I don't want them to surround me, so I'm going to duck back into this hallway and fight like a coward. But a surviving coward. Come back here. One of the major benefits of not wearing any armor at all is that nobody can hear you, so you're very stealthy. Alright, I like to kill molds whenever I can with this kind of character build too, because they give you some experience and some is better than none. What is that? That's a scout, right? Grab some daggers. These gloves do nothing. I don't... Maybe somebody who's better at Sil than I am can tell me what the point of these leather gloves are. It's the same thing as a robe. They don't actually do anything. They have no armor class. And they have no armor weight, so they can't even help you that way. It's a pretty quiet top floor of a dungeon. Some boots, that's nice. Oh, okay. So these are enemies that I tend to hope that I don't have to fight at this floor. But that might be armor, so that's going to help a lot. I'm going to grab that. You can wear armor right off the floor. So in a situation like this where time is of the essence, you don't want to like get the armor because that burns a turn and then wield it because that burns another turn. You just want to wheel it off the floor. So I'm going to run up here. And again, the orcs are playing hide and seek with me. The only thing that's going to help me survive here is charge. If I didn't have charge, this would be a touch and go sort of fight. But charge is sort of overpowered, but the game's creators haven't figured out how to balance it without kind of totally obliterating its purpose, so that's a pretty good longsword for this depth. I like longswords because they have a couple of damage dice, so charge works well with them, but they're still really accurate. Worms. It's worse than cutting the lawn. This might be a losing battle, I might run. You see the difference. My older characters had much more damage potential because they would critical more often. When it takes a couple of hits to kill a worm, that gives them a turn to reproduce. And I don't really want to be burning that many turns killing worms here, so The other thing I wanted to mention about smithing is that in addition to kind of letting you survive the early game a bit better, more reliably, I guess, it does allow you to play sort of proactively instead of reactively. I think the most optimal way to play Sil if you're really good is to save your smithing investment until very late in the game, where it's just going to help you make really crazy stuff. But in the interim parts of the game, it's just to react to what the game is doing to you, kind of like Kung Fu style. So instead of like forcing your own will on the world, you just kind of take what the dungeon is giving you and base your build around that. So if you find a bunch of really light weapons that are powerful for their weight, you want to go for kind of like a stealthy, stabby build that does damage to criticals. If you find some really powerful armor or some really heavy weapons at the beginning, you might want to think about just being a bruiser. If you're finding squat in the dungeon, you might want to think about a pacifist build where you're trying to scare the monsters away with songs and stuff like that. So there's like I said, there's a lot of ways you can play this game, and I think as time goes on, people are going to start playing more reactively because it seems to be the most optimal way. Because if you're smithing all your own equipment, you're basically ignoring a lot of the stuff that dungeon's giving you in the early stages. More soldiers. Man, you guys are really diligent this game. Okay. So this may look kind of boring, but I can't tell you how many characters I've killed at this stage when having a big smithing focus at the beginning. I just kind of learned to not push buttons too quickly. It's the quickest way to die in this game. Alright, so that's the first floor, and you can see I've netted 500 experience, which is decent. I'm going to get some experience for going down the stairs. This is a bad kind of room to start in, because when you're surrounded by darkness, there could be an orc, like, right here, and I'd walk into it, so I'm going to try and go out this door. Turns out there are orcs right behind me. Is this a hall? I can't tell if this little black spot is because I can't see it, or because there's a hallway there. It's because I can't see it. Let's dash for that hallway on the left and hope. Oh man, I gotta learn how to line of sight things because that was pathetic. That was actually really lucky too that that door was not locked. I'm gonna close the door behind me in case there's anything there that is listening. If there's some wolves or white wolves in there, it'll prevent, or at least get rid of a lot of the noise I'm gonna make by smashing these orcs' faces in. Oh, that was a good charge. Alright, just a little comment on criticals. Remember I mentioned in a previous video that if you get a really high melee score, basically I think the number is 7 plus your weapon weight is your base melee sum that you need to get to critical. So if you look at my weapon weight is, for purposes of that calculation, I think it's going to be 3. I think they round up. So any multiple of 10 on my roll, on my damage, my melee roll, combat roll, whatever you want to call it, will get me a critical. So here, my combat roll is 29, so that's like a d20 plus my melee score. His evasion roll is 6, I got 23. 2 times 10 is 20. That means I get 2 criticals. And that's why you see 2 exclamation marks here, because that's a double critical. And so I got a few extra damage dice on my hit. That was just a normal hit. It wasn't a charge. So, because I got a double critical there, that was as hard as charging it. Or did as much damage as a charge would have done. Alright. These worms, luckily, were not aware of me when I was fighting, otherwise they would have multiplied like crazy. The other reason I closed the door there when I started fighting is because I noticed there was a worm up there. And if they're going to multiply, I'd rather they do it behind closed doors. Because that can get out of hand real quickly. Alright, there's probably an orc in this room that saw me, and there's his buddies. I hope and pray that there's not an orc to the top left of this one. Yeah, see, with 3 orcs like this, they could potentially trap me. It's going to be tough for them. Nah, see, he made a critical mistake there. Now I can sneak out. See, there's a scout behind them that's making my life miserable. This could be it, guys. So I likely won't survive this. Do I have a... At this point, the smart thing to do would be to... Not the smart. A desperate thing to do would be to just desperately chug down one of these potions. Oh man, I'm getting so lucky with hits here. Alright, that was a close call. Ooh, a special leather armor. Let me just kill the scout. Good. I've done that before where I had a scout and 3 orcs kind of harassing me, and I killed the orcs, and I had like 2 HP, and I went to just swat the scout because I always think of them as kind of an irritation, and he double criticaled me and killed me or something. Alright, I just took a nap, so I'm back up to speed. This leather armor that is special, usually armor when you wield it, it has an effect that is just like immediately obvious, and so it'll self-identify. I can't remember if there are like negative effects you can get on leather armor, like wrath or something. But none of the positive effects that it would have are really going to help me right now, so I'm just not going to wear it. I'm going to be paranoid. Alright, so now what we're doing is we're A, trying to clean out this 100-foot floor here. But B, we're, again, still trying to accumulate a reasonable amount of experience before we find the forge, or even after, it doesn't matter. Like, if I find the forge right now, I'm still going to go kill everything. Ooh, that's a good short bow. So short bows have base 1d7 damage, so 1d8 is good. And it has the perfect weight for my strength. So bows work the same way as melee weapons for the strength bonus. So if I have 2 strength, and I wield a bow, if I have X strength and I wield a bow, for every pound of weight of the bow, I'll be able to get +1 damage side. So because this bow is 2 pounds, and because my strength is 2, I get +2 damage sides on its attack, so it's 1d10 and a 1d8. But the weapon weight also factors into bow criticals, I think. I think that's why you want this perfect weight. It must, otherwise I don't know how they would do that calculation. So you want the weight to be essentially exactly equal to your strength if you're picking up bows. Pair of leather boots. I don't really care about boots too much because that's going to be like one of the first things I make. And I pray to God that I get a good forge. If not, you know what I'll probably do for this game, assuming I survive, or even if I die. See, there's the forge. Okay. Yeah. There are a couple things that I want to talk about here. I said before that finding that when you walk into a forge room, it's usually full of like really nasty monsters. So you don't want to fight in the forge. You just want to get out. Usually what I'll do is I'll walk in a step, and then if I feel like it's a forge, I'll walk right out just to see if anything follows me out. And then I'll walk in 2 steps, and then walk out, and then walk in 3. This time the orcs are following me out. So he's dead. He definitely has another buddy in here. And you really, if you can't see around the forge itself, and it's a small room like this, you don't want to walk onto it, because a lot of times there's some really strong molds, like right next to the forge is really obnoxious. So any step I take right here, I have a chance of walking into a mold. Okay, there's not one there. Okay, so this is a pretty tame forge, as far as forges go. However, it's also a really shitty forge. It's only got 2 uses. So this is the point in the game where I would normally say, you know what, that only took, what, I don't even know, because I switched my clock to analog. It only took some small amount of minutes, and I would prefer to just do it again until I get a 4-use forge. Even a 3-use I'll sometimes stick with, but 2 is really awful. So if this was a normal game and that was like a 3 or 4-use forge, I would just suck it up and clear the rest of the level to get as much experience as I can. Like here, this is a green worm, I haven't killed that yet, so I get some experience for that. Some white wolves. So yeah, I would clear the rest of the level and then come back to the forge and make my stuff. However, what I'll do instead is I'm going to create a new version of this character and keep coming down here until I get a reasonable forge, like a 3 or 4 use one, and then I'll start recording again. Some people might peg this as cheating, or there's a term in, at least in Angband, I don't know if they use it in all roguelikes, where there's this technique called scumming, where you'll just keep doing a floor over and over again, or you'll basically abuse some repetitive behavior until you get favorable conditions. So like in normal Angband, I think there's like even an option that will, if you go down the stairs, it'll keep going up and down the stairs until your character has a feeling that you're on a really good level. So you'll only play levels that have really good stuff. A lot of people consider that to be, dishonorable behavior. So I don't know if other Sil players would think continually resetting until you get a good forge is dishonorable behavior. I think the game creators could fix this situation by putting a 4-use forge here every time, because I'm never going to play this game unless I get a 4-use forge there. So for now I'm going to say goodbye. I might stitch the resumed version of this character onto this video, I might not. But for now I will bid you adieu and then recreate this character and try again. So I'll see you soon.